Hello, Crosswalk. This is Amanda Eidelman. I am a contributing writer to the Crosswalk platform, and I'm here today to share with you a little bit about my article, Did I Marry the Wrong Person? And also let you know that I've already decorated for Christmas. We are those people, we like to decorate early, take full advantage of all the Christmas cheer. So this article, if you have clicked on it, come across it, if it resonated with you, I would venture to say that you've probably experienced some sort of struggle in your marriage. And I just want you to know that you are not alone. My husband and I got married at a really young age. I was 20 and he had just was 21. And we're about to celebrate 15 years of marriage, so we're still working at it. But we've had a lot of struggles, and I can honestly say that even through all those struggles, you know, God has really held us together. He's really used our marriage to shape and form and change us, and it's also something that we keep remaining committed to working at. Anyways, so I don't know if it was just because we got married young. I often thought maybe I was too naive, too young to have married the right person. So that sort of lie has sort of messed with our marriage at different points in our story. But I also think that narrative can enter anybody's mind because it's a really big part of our culture right now. Like, you're a great person, but you weren't the right person. You're not my soulmate. All these ideas that actually aren't really biblical. So one thing I wanted to share from the article is a truth I've discovered is that neither my husband nor I are the same people when we first got married. We've changed so much from our 20-year-old, still in college, baby selves. What we've learned is marriage is the choice to continue to grow together, to remain faithful to those epic vows we very naively recited in front of our friends and family. It's a never-ending evolution. I really can never answer the question, did I marry the wrong person? Because it considers a person that once was. We really need to focus on whether we are willing to continue to commit to the person we are married to right now. Because ultimately, my husband, he is not the same man that I chose 15 years ago. And thankfully, I truly believe he's a better man, and I'm not the same. I've gone through many struggles. We've grown our family in a huge way over the last 10 years, which has come with a lot of joy, but a lot of struggles. So the truth is we have to keep choosing to be the people that we want to be for each other, that God calls us to be. So looking back and thinking, did I marry the right person? Is really a mute question. And the real question is, am I the right person for my spouse in this season? And are they treating me in a way that is reflecting the qualities of the Lord? And how can we grow towards God together? So some of the other points that I sort of talk through in the article is a commitment to remain honest. You know, one really hard thing in our relationship, we've never had like a major breach of like, you know, trust, but I think emotionally we've struggled to create a safe space where we can vent our struggles, our fears, our worries. So we need to make sure that we all, if we want to build long-lasting marriage, if we want to be the people that our spouses, you know, deserve, that honesty remains the foundation. And when it's broken, we have to commit to rebuilding it together, and usually with accountability partner, a counselor, a pastor that's going to help us make a new healthy foundation of trust. The second one is probably the most important, and I've learned, is when we get married, we commit to a lifetime of forgiveness. You know, in a normal marriage without major, you know, breaks of trust or, you know, infidelity, things that sometimes do mean that our marriages need to end, like abuse. You know, I don't think that every marriage is meant or safe place for the long run. But in a normal marriage, even tiny things like feeling unseen for the work that you're doing for your family, feeling unappreciated, feeling misunderstood, those aren't major breaches of trust. But I know in my heart, I've had to let go of a huge amount of bitterness that I've held in my marriage because I felt like my husband didn't respond to my needs or my service to our family in the way that I had expected. Even if I didn't articulate it, I had these unspoken expectations, and I really was hurt, and vice versa. And so God has really helped me realize that it's a constant surrendering to Him of these things that we want to hold on to. It's a constant pattern of grace and forgiveness, because we're so imperfect people trying to build a life together. And even the little unseen, not life shattering moments can turn into big issues if forgiveness isn't a part of our story together. 3 is we remain faith-filled, and that's another place that our marriage has helped me grow, because I've realized I have to go to the Lord for the things that I feel like I've expressed to my husband, but he is unable to meet, or he might, in my mind, not be changing in a way that I expect. And really, that patience is hard, because we want, them to respond instantly to our needs, but sometimes God has to do a holy work inside of our spouse, because they come in with issues, or maybe it's our own selves and we just can't see it. So being faith-filled, going back to the Lord, praying over our marriages, and remaining committed to Jesus on our own helps, build that stamina that is required to keep a marriage together over a lifetime, and challenges us to keep growing for the sake of our marriage and our families. 4 is choose your community wisely and remain accountable to others. The older I am, the more I realize that being married does not mean that temptation just goes out the door. You can be in a community with other married people and find yourselves in a really tempting scenario. There's all kinds of ways that people explore, sexuality outside the bounds of marriage in communities of couples. There's also lots of ways in our culture that substances are casually abused, which can lead to unwise decisions. And also, there's also an element of our community speaks life into our marriages. I know I can share freely when me and my husband are struggling with trusted, God-fearing friends, and they are not going to bash my husband. They might say, I understand how frustrating that is, but they're also going to tell me that, the Lord loves him, the Lord's working, you need to be patient, you need to be kind. They're going to encourage me to remain invested, even when, it could be easy or even justifiable for your community to say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you put up with that? And sometimes we put up with ridiculous things for the sake of love. So that's the reality. So really, I think there's so much to choosing a strong community that's going to keep you accountable, because temptation is everywhere. It doesn't matter if you've been married for 1 year or 30 years, somebody can offer something unexpected, and you constantly have to make a choice, and having a strong community that's going to keep you, in the bounds of what the Lord calls us to is vital. And 5 is seek help when it's needed. Like I mentioned earlier, there are situations in marriage that are heartbreaking, and sometimes they even come late in marriage, and that's even harder, and it's devastating to ourselves and our hearts. And I think as long as there's 2 working, surrendered to the Lord people invested in your marriage, there's almost anything that God can heal. But we can't control our spouse. Sometimes they make choices that are, hard to return back from. or they choose to separate themselves. And that's super hurtful. But in those moments, that's when we need professional help. And also when you just find yourself in a really tough spot. Like me and my husband went through several years of counseling, and it wasn't, because of one big horrible moment in our marriage. It was because we lacked good communication skills, and we found ourselves going from, can you buckle our child into the car seat, to ready to, take each other out. So the escalation was huge, and we saw how destructive that was for both of our lives and our hearts. So we needed to spend time in counseling. And oftentimes we can revert back, and then we have to get that help back in, or we have to call in our friends or mentors, or go back and find a book that's going to keep us accountable. So constantly inviting help in whatever form that you feel comfortable, but sometimes even professional help. And if you are in an unsafe situation, making sure that you get yourself out of that situation, so that you can surrender the relationship to the Lord. Ultimately, God never wants us to be stuck in an unsafe place. So that's on His will, and not that He can't redeem it, but He needs you first to step back before you can move forward. So the answer to the question, did I marry the wrong person, is answered with another question. Am I continuing to be faithfully committed to my marriage? Will I choose to love the person my spouse has become? And if you have slid away from each other, how can you step back? It's never too late with God. Find counselors, find help. Marriage is pretty much impossible when we use just our own strength, I believe. I know, at least for me, I couldn't stay committed to this work without the Holy Spirit. But with God on our side, anything is possible, and that's true. He loves us, and He loves your marriage, and He loves your spouse, and He desires to hold that union together. So bring it to Him and continue to do the work of loving each other the way that Christ loved us.